start to finish.
Empty backfield, second and goal. Cousins to the end zone. Touchdown! Redemption for Chad Beebe.
Flips his hips, flips it downfield. Wide open. Tonyan. Touchdown. Packers. Trubisky fakes there and throws for the touchdown. Allen Robinson, good play design there.
Back to him they go. Peterson, he's across this time. Touchdown Lions.
Pylon listeners, welcome back. Week 12 of the NFL season has wrapped up, and there is a whole lot to talk about here in the NFC North. Oh man, just a lot to go over here after some good fortunes and some not so good fortunes. But let's go around, introduce everybody really quick again. I'm Big Z representing the Detroit Lions. Let's go around the rest of the horn. We got Remy representing the Minnesota Vikings.
Minnesota, stand up. It's always good to win.
Then we got Kinger representing the Pack, the leaders.
Gentlemen, I got a big smile on my face being back with you tonight. As always, it's good to be back. Go Pack, big win today.
And then last but not least, we got Barney, who is in the greatest of spirits.
This is just your weekly reminder that even Aaron Rodgers' own family hates him.
I like that. So let's jump right into that one. It's most immediate, but we're recording this right after the Packers give a shellacking to the Chicago Bears, to say the least. 41-25. Kinger, take this one away. This is ugly from the get-go.
This was a great night for the Green Bay Packers and their fans. I mean, coming into this game, we talked about it. At the end of the day, it was a big game coming in. Green Bay had the 2-game lead heading into tonight. Chicago had a chance to bring them within a game, ultimately shift the momentum. There was questions around how was Green Bay going to come? Were they going to come out tonight? Were they going to come out fired up, energized, ready to play? Had been some questions around that previously in the season, and they did just that. Executed the game plan flawlessly, absolutely dominated the time of possession from start to finish. Bears defense didn't look like they were ready to play, and that put them in a very bad position early. Obviously with them having Mitch Trubisky in the quarterback, questions around how is he going to play tonight. The Bears needed to come out early, hopefully, get a score or two quick, get a stop as well, not be down. They didn't want to be playing down. And that's exactly what happened. And, big night for the offense across the board. We were able to move the ball at will, and it was a lot of fun to watch.
Barney, the Bear. Oh, wait, Remy, you want to throw in some
quick question.
Barney has a chance to say something.
Quick question, Kinger. Do you think if Akeem Hicks plays, this is a little bit closer of a game, or there's more maybe opportunities for the Bears?
I mean, absolutely. Akeem Hicks is an elite player, and his presence in there does a lot, requires more attention from the offensive line than what was given tonight to the Bears defensive end. I mean, or defensive side of the ball. At the end of the day, I mean, does one player make the game? Who knows? But I mean, that's obviously a player that you want on that side of the ball, and the Packers were obviously able to take advantage of that and run the ball better than they have been able to in previous matchups in recent times.
What was like the biggest strength tonight? Because was Valdez-Scantling, was he out? Was he just did he just not get any targets?
He was active, but he had tweaked his Achilles earlier this week in practice, and there was questions around if he was even going to play or not. He did end up suiting up, but Equanimous St. Brown ended up taking more snaps tonight.
I wish I would have known that.
A little bit more of
my
a
parlay. Thanks, buddy.
Sorry, man. I didn't know that that was a part of what you had going there. But no, and it was great tonight to see EQ step up. How you feeling, Barney? How are you feeling after watching that kind of beatdown? Sorry to phrase it any other way.
Yeah, I mean, that was a beatdown. You know what I hate about this game is I hate that towards the end during garbage time, we looked like a decent offense. And that was clearly because it was a 30-point game. And, Green Bay, you could just tell like they cared a little bit less. But, I'm sure Grandma McCaskey's there probably saying, look, my boys are fighting so hard. I think, Nagy and Pace and Ted Phillips, they deserve, another go. And it sucks. For what it's worth, I thought that game was a 41-10 game. It would have stayed there if the Packers had, kept that same intensity. But how do you when you just know you're absolutely routing the opponent? I am pleased that I was so afraid of this game going in that I teased them by 10 points. So I had them at 18 plus 18 Chicago Bears. So I am really thrilled that we covered that. But it was brutal. But I'll give a couple shout outs to some guys that I think really did play well. David Montgomery, 100-yard game on 11 carries. How
are you feeling, Barney, after, obviously the Packers go down and score on the opening drive, move the ball pretty easily. Then David Montgomery rips off that, I think it was like a 65-yard run immediately, and the Bears go down, knocking on the door, looking like they're going to score again right away. You had to have been getting real excited off the bat there, right?
Yeah, I was a little bit afraid. I talked to you before the game, with Akeem out. I said, hey, I was thinking about hitting Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams overs because of that presence being not there. I wish I did, but whatever's whatever. But you guys marched right down like a hot knife and butter, and then first play or second play, whatever it was, Montgomery just ripped off one of his longest runs of the year. Somebody that I think is absolutely a fantastic back that stats never really show because of how awful our line is. But, I was sitting there, I'm like, you know what? The Green Bay Packers run defense is dog shit. So, I know we can't do this for 4 quarters, but hell, we might be able to do it enough times. But then we get to the 5-yard line, and we can't punch it in from there. And I'm just like, I'm laughing. I'm like, what the fuck do I got to do to get a fucking touchdown here?
Question. Did Trubisky hit his over in rushing 12 yards?
I doubt it.
He's close.
11. He had 11.
You guys, screw betting on your guys' teams. I'm sticking to mine, in which I lost every one, by the way.
I had over Montgomery 52.5 yards, so that first run was phenomenal.
You were cashing in.
Oh yeah, that was really nice. And then I took the Bears live plus 22.5, so that was nice too. Thank you, Mr. Trubisky.
But I want to give 2 other shout outs. One to somebody that I don't think will be back with us unless we tag them, and that's Allen Robinson. I think he played a great game. Matched up, not entirely with Jair Alexander, but it's for as bad sometimes as Green Bay's defense can look. They got some talent in the secondary, and he got 2 tutties and was open and available. Not all the balls were hitting the spots there, but he did well. And then another guy, Darnell Mooney. Right from the jump, I think why I really like his game today is most of his completions and most of his work and production came in like the first 2 quarters, like when it wasn't yet a 20+ point game, and the DBs were off the ball by 10 yards. This was right in the thick of things during the rivalry, and he's a young guy, small guy. And I think Darnell Mooney, I think they said he was like the 25th wide receiver taken in the draft or something like that at that point. Great find. I think he's going to be good for the long run.
So I think, Remy, you had a question that you're asking Barney before we hopped on here, but we wanted to repeat it and get that kind of stir the pot here.
So it's frustrating. I know Bear fans are on one side, Bear fans are on the other side. Obviously, there's a quarterback problem there because I stopped watching a little before halftime. I mean, Trubisky just can't make the throws. He wants to, but why are you throwing into double coverage with a cannon to have Darnell Savage pick it off in the end? I mean, people make mistakes. That's fine. But Trubisky, in my opinion, needed to go out there and do none of that. He needed to win back the trust of Bear fans. He didn't do that tonight, in my opinion. So as a Bear fan, as a person who, as a you, Barney, as a person who listens to the Bears talk radio, who kind of hears the buzz around the city, what do Bears fans want now? Whether it's a coach fire, a GM fire, or a quarterback.
Yeah. Well, there's like kind of two thoughts here. There's, a pretty drastic thought, and then there is a little bit more of a subtle approach. I'll start with the subtle approach. For most Bears fans, we just want Nagy and Ryan Pace the fuck out of town. They are content with putting out their par athletes and mostly talking about the offensive line. I'm a huge believer in games being dictated.
O-line's a tough spot to mesh. O-line's a tough spot to mesh. You're talking to a Vikings fan. You do realize that.
But games are won in the trenches. If you're absolutely dominated game in and game out like we are, when you see that we're dominated and then you still keep a failed defensive tackle as your guard, that is enough for me to say, get the fuck out of here. I'm tired of this bullshit. Trubisky totally does give us a better approach with this horrible line because he has some escapability and he's not afraid to get, get sacked. Whereas Foles will just he kind of does what Peyton did in the last 2 years of his career where he would just fall down, Is
Chicago entering after the season? Who knows what they'll finish? I mean, who knows? Are they in full rebuild?
I don't know if you call it a full rebuild. I mean, it's honestly, I totally think that even if we had Trubisky and Foles there under center, and we had just an average line, not a terrible line, that we at least would be in games competitively with our defense. That would, would we want to have a better offense? Absolutely, but you can't always have everything you want. And I think with our great defense, that as long as we could just run the ball, we can't ever run the ball. I'm ecstatic about David Montgomery finally hitting 100 yards. This I think the first time he's done it all year. And that's not a knock on him. That's just a knock on, our personnel out there. But we can't run the ball. We can't dictate a tempo. So, our defense is out there and it's hard to fight for 60 minutes when the time of possession is so controlled by, Green Bay, like what it was. So, but I'll get back to finishing your first question. The other side of the fan base, the drastic side, which I don't have a problem with their school of thought, is they want the McCaskies to sell the fucking team because the McCaskies, the McCaskies inherited it. Virginia's the daughter of George. She's great, but we've been the same team for the last 30 years. So it's
Barney. You and me both have had the same owners forever in the same family. So we're kind of in a similar boat in terms of how the ownership runs the team.
I just think there's definitely parallels with the Fords and the McCaskies, but it's just not the Fords. That's the Fords, but it's Ford Field. Who owns the Lions?
The Ford. So right now the owner is Sheila Camp Ford or Ford
okay.
Camp.
Gotcha.
So it the daughter of Bill Ford. So
all right. But I just, dude, it's pathetic that we're paying people millions of dollars to do something that it's I'm not even trying to be disrespectful. It's legitimately, I think the guy to my left can do what they're doing. And I could probably get away with paying him about $150 for tonight instead of, $8 million. But as far as, going forward, dude, I think the number one priority is we have to invest in this offensive line and we have to make this a point of emphasis because unless we do that, our top 3, top 5 caliber defense isn't going to mean squat.
And how do you feel about that defense tonight, Barney? Because, one thing I want to point out, I was super impressed with the Packers offensive line tonight. With Lindsley going down, Big E moving to center. Elgton Jenkins is so good, so versatile. They talked about that tonight and all the positions he's played. But the offensive line, no sacks, no hits on Rodgers tonight. I thought they played very well. A couple holding calls, I think were in the game, but other than that, very well. And I mean, I thought the Bears defense overall was obviously very lackluster tonight. They didn't look like they were ready to play at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Aaron Rodgers has our number. He identifies weaknesses. I think we've been watching, 3 games straight where he just absolutely obliterates Buster Screen, right? I mean, they try to get matchups on him, and I don't understand from a defensive side, like when we're trying to game plan for a game like this, it's like, all right, we don't have holes here, okay? It's not like we're trying to fight a 3-headed monster, but Aaron Rodgers always picks on Buster Screen, and we had no answer again for that. And it's just like, I don't know what you do at this point. We're already pretty far away into the season, but it hurt not having Akeem Hicks out there, but you can't hang it out. Everybody's got guys that are hurt. I get that. It wasn't our best showing, but I just think Green Bay's got our number, and we don't play well against Green Bay. Typically, usually we play pretty damn well defensively. I think in the last 6 times we played you, this was definitely our worst. But this was probably like the only like bad game that we've ever had versus you guys in the last, since we got Max, since like that defense started picking up. And today I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We laid a fucking egg out there.
So I wanted to ask you about Khalil Mack, and he's only at 6.5 sacks on the year, which is not what the Bears are paying him. He is not in the top. I'm looking right now. He's not in the top 50 ranked on PFF for linebackers. So I'm just not sure what. Well,
I don't like PFF, to be honest, but I think Khalil Mack is well worth the investment. Sack numbers aren't there, but he changes the game in the amount of time that quarterbacks have to drop back. He changes the way that offensive coordinators have to change their scheme in blocking. I think Khalil Mack's is the last of my worries if we're going to talk about people that are like somebody to worry about. But yeah, do I wish he had about almost 10 sacks going in right now? Absolutely. I do. But, it's hard when you're the absolute point of emphasis, to stop.
And I take it back. He's not listed as a linebacker. He's listed as a defensive end, and he's the second best ranked defensive end. So now you like PFF again. Now you like PFF again.
O-lines are definitely having to give Khalil Mack the attention because they're not giving Robert Quinn too much there on the other side.
Yeah, dude. I mean, is Robert Quinn, is that a bad signing by the Bears here? Everybody thought that was a good signing coming in. It doesn't look like it right now.
I got a theory on Robert Quinn. His contract's laid out to, it's a big contract. It's like, I think like 5 years, 80 million or whatever it is, but there's only some guaranteed, right? And I think he knows where he's at in his career. I think he knows where he's at with his body. And I think he's sitting there, and I'm going to call him out. I think he's sitting there trying to make sure he surpasses that guaranteed money rate. And, he hasn't done jack shit. Last year was like one of his best years ever. And then this year he's opposite Robert Quinn and Akeem Hicks. And, he had a sack his very first game playing and hasn't really done a goddamn thing since. So, Robert Quinn's starting to be a bad signing because, there's people that just cash out, and he's totally looking at his opportunity to let the defense speak for itself. Obviously he wants to win, just like anybody else, but I think he's more important to himself than the team. And it's bullshit because we paid him a lot. And again, another fucking move by Pace that doesn't look like it's doing too well.
Yeah, it's a rough road ahead for you and me, Barney, most likely here.
We got a game next week though, sir.
Yeah, we do. The toilet bowl. Oh boy, that'll be an interesting one. I wish we could go. It'd probably be cheap tickets too. That's a huge bummer. That's the one good thing about my team always being bad is that I can go see them for cheap usually. But Kinger, this last word on the Packers before we get going here. They still are one game out of first place over the Saints because the Saints got the easiest game imaginable today. The Denver Broncos losing all three quarterbacks 2 days before the Sunday. That's unheard of in NFL history. But yeah, last word.
You got to be feeling good as a Packers fan. This was a big win, definitely in regards to securing not only the division, but working towards that number one playoff spot and securing that bye. They showed the graphic tonight on NBC. There's really not, I think the winning percentages of all the top teams in the NFC right now, their remaining schedule, their remaining opponents is all below 500. So, winning these games is important, and it doesn't look like there's really going to be too many opportunities to slip going forward. So the defense, regardless of who the opponent was and who was on the other side of the ball tonight, the defense came out energized. They played well for the most part. It was good to see. It seemed like there weren't any, lapses in effort and some in regards to what we've seen in previous weeks. So you got to be feeling good there. You got Philly coming into town who beat us at home last year off some questionable calls late in the game. Looking to get revenge on that and just keep the ball rolling. It was a big win. You always love beating Chicago, and like Roger said, it's time to regroup, and we're back at it again next week.
All right, so let's move on to the next game that happened today. That is Remy, your Minnesota Vikings, pulling out a big win at home against Teddy Two Gloves. By the skin of their teeth, Joey Sly, who has a huge leg, just I don't know what the hell happened.
Twice.
But
Sly.
Hooked it. He's a righty. He hooked it to the left by a mile. But Kirk Cousins finally had a big drive late in the game. I don't remember the last time I saw him do that, so that was good to see. Are you encouraged by what you saw out of Kirk Cousins here and the Vikings for going forward down the stretch? As the Cardinals lose, Minnesota only one game out of the playoffs.
Yeah, Big Z. Let me go on record by saying, I'm bought into Kirk Cousins now.
There it is. Yeah, there it is.
You've heard me talk about, and here's my reasoning. You've heard me talk about all season how this offense runs through Dalvin Cook. But what happens when they game prep for Cook and they actually contain him? I mean, he rushed for 65 yards, whatever, off day. What happens when the screens get blown up, when the runs get stuffed, and your number one, or potentially, your number one receiver's out, Adam Thielen? You lean on your playmaker. And Justin Jefferson just keeps continuing to solidify his dominance. So what I just did through 11 games where we're at right now, you look at both Randy Moss's rookie year and Justin Jefferson's rookie year. Randy Moss, through 11 games his rookie year, had 845 yards and 8 touchdowns. Justin Jefferson has 918 yards with 6 touchdowns. So he's there's parallels. I'm just saying. Not to say that he's going to come out and be the next Moss, but for the Vikings to hit on a receiver in the first round of the draft is almost as crazy as, the Packers not drafting a receiver. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, you know that besides since Percy Harvin, if Jefferson,
we're 3 games ahead of you, Remy.
I know. But hey, we're coming for you now. Slip up a few times, we're coming for you. No, but
maybe be 4 games ahead.
That's fair. That's fair.
The last receiver we drafted in that got Rookie of the Year, Percy Harvin. So we'll see. But no, so Cousins put all the Cousins haters to rest, including myself. 307 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He he dictated the offense. We start off slow. We always come back in the fourth quarter. At one point, we were down 21-10 with 5 minutes left in the third, and that's when we blocked that punt. DJ Wanham, remember that name. He's probably going to replace Jaleel Johnson or Shamar Stephen next year when Michael Pierce comes back. He's like they compare him to a Daniil Hunter type player. We huge block punt. Maybe it was a blocked field goal. It was a blocked field goal because it prevented them from going up 21-10. Kirk then down 6, put on his big boy shoes and went to town. Game-winning touchdown. These games are still too close for me by 1 point. Again, I talked about it on the last podcast about Vikings and 1 point games, and I mean, I just think these games are completely different if you insert our defensive players who aren't on the field right now. And, stands Adam Thielen and a shutdown Dalvin. It wasn't pretty, but we got it done. And from what I'm hearing, let's keep rolling. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man.
Kinger, Barney, is this not the same guy that was saying let's tank for Trevor Lawrence?
And I wanted to address that first and foremost, and I believe I did a good job. But yes, I admit it. Kirk, see, when it comes to the quarterback position, I get very possessive, and I want him to be great. And when they fuck up and they're not mobile and they're throwing double coverage interceptions, of course. I might have heard a few Bear fans say it. I don't know.
It's amazing what a few L's does to a man's mindset in regards to blowing up the team. That's it can make you to throw out some crazy comments like that. But we knew it all along. The Vikings were talented. Once that defense started to play, you knew Zimmer was going to get them on board. I mean, I've been saying it. I still think, and they are the second best team in this division. So they're finally on a roll, and definitely not a team you want to go up against right now. Although
maybe you do though. I don't know because we lost to the Cowboys last week and that sucked. It's inconsistent. You
also lost to Atlanta.
Exactly. But for the listeners, I am rocking the Teddy Bridgewater jersey. He did tear it up.
And the Cowboys.
And all right, we're just gonna list off every loss by no. And one of you guessed it right, but wrong score. It was a 1 point game. I think it was like 23-24. One of you guys.
Me. Yeah.
Hoods to Barnes. But no, I mean, looking forward, we got the Jaguars next week at home. We're on like a 3 to 4 game homestand. And it's a shame that this now has taken effect because you come out of your bye beating Green Bay, the Lions, and then the Bears. You're hot. You might win and you might be undefeated from your bye if you have fans in there, just with the atmosphere. So coming up, we got the Jags. I believe that's a winnable game, and let's just take this game by game. And Vike fans, buckle up. Like I said, this ain't going to be pretty, but we got a 22% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah, man, and the Cardinals losing was a big one. They lost to New England today, so that brings them down. You're only 1 game back. The Rams lose. They're 2 games back there. So there's definitely some
I wanted the Niners
to work.
lose
and then
more.
The Bucks. You're only 2 games behind the Bucks, and you're playing the Bucks in 2 weeks.
Yep. These are going to be some meaningful games coming up, not to mention we also have to play the Bears again and I believe the Lions again.
Yeah, you go Jaguars and at Buccaneers, home for the Bears, then on the road the last 2 games against the Saints and then the Lions.
I just want to pin this right here because Remy, I couldn't have been happier when the Vikes pulled it off. I said it before the drive even started. I was rooting for you guys. But you got some confidence here, and I'm glad. I love your spirits high, but I'm very eager to see how you feel following that Bucks defense that doesn't let anybody run on them. And we'll see if Kirk Cousins beat a quality defense. Right, a quality defense. Yep. When they game plan for Dalvin. So, kind of going off what you said for Cousins, we'll see what happens in 2 weeks.
We'll see if he can walk the walk.
Because it doesn't matter who you if you can beat the lower tier teams, right? You care about beating the guys that that are going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah,
So this is a big
exactly.
Does
Because when you're matched up with we're going to be matched up with like the Saints or someone. Which I mean, if the Saints want to keep matching up with us in the playoffs, we'll gladly send them home early.
Does it concern you at all the Vikings' performance 2 weeks ago against the Cowboys, and then what you saw from the Cowboys on Thanksgiving? That team is not good.
Oh yeah, no, that's frustrating as hell. And I mean, the Vikings have had every right to win that Cowboy game. It's just, man, it's Minnesota. I can't tell you. There's something in the water up there that just screws us over. I living there, I get it. When I lived there briefly, I get it. I understand it. These fans, they're happy when the team's winning, and they're just depressed and sad when we're bad. So we just take it week by week.
All right, man. Well, I'll tell you about a depressed fan base. It's the Detroit Lion fan base.
Barney's just smiling. Barney loves every second of this.
Well, it's only because we have multiple bets going on.
We're still tied in our Jimmy Graham one, right, Barney? Jimmy Graham, TJ Hawkinson one. Nobody's scored a touchdown in a few weeks now. I thought Hawkinson might get one on Thanksgiving there. He had a good game, actually. But man, so the Lions, in case, you've been living under a rock, fire Matt Patricia, fire their GM. I mean, I'm happy that they're fired because, they did a bad job. We haven't been competitive in a while, consistently competitive. And, but I'm also frustrated because it's just, another rebuild coming, and there's a lot of questions. There's a lot more questions than answers right now. First and foremost that comes to mind is, what is the future of Matt Stafford? He regardless of his if he gets traded next year or not, he's a $19 million dead cap space to our roster. So what I think is going to happen with Matt Stafford, and you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he stays another year because of that cap hit. They're kind of stuck with him in that regard. It's weird to say stuck with Matt Stafford because I do think he's still extremely talented. But, I mean, at some point, you might have to move on. But what I think is going to happen, and this is way too early to say, is that we'd look for a quarterback in the next draft, keep Stafford on the roster for one more year, and then look to trade him. Now, the only thing that could change that is that of a team like the Broncos. Like, I don't think the Bears or I don't think the Lions would do a trade. Do you think the Lions would do a trade with the Bears? Do you think the Bears would want Stafford?
I
trade
bet
within the division.
Come on. I bet you if there was
I don't think so either.
If there was
Absolutely
two
not.
teams in this division that would trade with each other, I think that the Lions and I think the two broads would be talking to each other over a nice little Pinot and say, "Oh, okay, let's get this going." But I don't see it happening.
No, I wouldn't either.
The
so
Lions
that's why
would be screwing themselves. You know who Matt Stafford would be throwing to? A decent
he'd
amount
be throwing
of
the Lions
receivers.
defense. He'd be throwing the Lions defense every once in a while. The way he's played this year.
What are your thoughts? I don't know if you know, there's been hype around this dude recently. Obviously, Zach Wilson, the quarterback out of BYU, projected to go in the 12th range, maybe. Maybe
Fun to
draft
watch.
him and
Really
have him
fun to
sit.
watch. I mean, yeah. That's what I'm right now predicting is that the Lions draft a quarterback in the first round because it looks like if they keep trending the way it has been, they're going to be a top 10 draft pick again. So there's definitely going to be some talent up there. But Barney, yeah.
Yeah, so we're looking at 4 guys because I think you guys will be outside of the, I think unless you're going to trade up, you're outside of the Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence spot. But there's Trey Lance, there's Zach Wilson, there's Kyle Trask.
Kyle Trask, sorry, yeah.
And then there's Mac Jones. I mean, this is supposed to be one of the deeper quarterback draft classes. So I think you're right on the money. That might be actually the route that the Lions do take.
We'll see, but it's got to be the right guy. You're not just taking one just to take one. So, like a guy like Mac Jones, I wouldn't want in the first round. Just watching him play. But regardless, I mean, did you guys see all the tweets and stuff from former players about Matt Patricia? Did you see Ashawn Robinson said you told me you'd end my career. There was a lot of hate more hate than you usually see when a coach is fired. More than I've ever seen, actually. Ben McLemore, that was a guy's coach, right? The Giants. He had some hate from the way he ran.
McAdoo.
McAdoo, that guy with the weird hair, that slick back haircut, like an Italian, weird looking guy. But anyways, there was some hate there, but this was way worse. Universally, any player connected with the Lions in the last 3 years, and even former ones like Dan Orlovsky and Steven Tulloch, who they clearly know guys within the organization still. Nothing but hatred and joy that this coach was fired. There wasn't like, oh, like we tried our hardest, we didn't work out. No, I bet like when Matt Nagy is let go, Joe, maybe that's this year, I don't know, but there'll probably be a lot more respect for him in the locker room than there will be for Matt Patricia leaving the door here, and Bob Quinn. Matt Patricia, I mean, they traded Diggs, they traded Slay because they didn't fit in the locker room culture. I'm quoting, quote unquote. But I mean, there's just so much hate for these two than you normally are used to seeing. Like it was interesting that the cat's out of the bag after this move has been made. But man, where the Lions go is interesting. I do think they have some flexibility to compete next year on defensive side, but they still have a lot of there's a lot of roster people, especially from a position like the linebacker position. Matt Patricia loves big, like 250-pound linebackers, and a lot of the league now is like 225-pound guys with some speed that can move in and out. They don't have any flexibility there. We see with Jamie Collins, he gets burned by every fucking running back that we go against. It's unbelievable. So there's a lot of, and that's a guy we're stuck with 2 more years for $20 million after this year. There's Trey Flowers. That's a building block, I guess. There's still 3 years left on his deal. Taylor Decker's a good player. Frank Ragnow, center. Kenny Galladay. Actually, it's funny. This firing gives us a better chance of re-signing Kenny Galladay, I read. He liked a post from the comments section on Instagram hating on the people loving the Matt Patricia firing. He liked a lot of those posts. So clearly this is going to bode well for that extension. He's going to be extended or franchised. I don't think he's going to be leaving, but I mean, what do you guys think? Good move from my team.
Have you and
100%.
I think for sure, definitely.
Yep,
are there reports of you guys even actively looking? I mean, I know it's early, but like, do you have like a coach in mind?
I mean, if you wanted to give me an early prediction, or have me make an early prediction right now, I'm guessing the head coach for the Detroit Lions next year will be Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator from the San Francisco 49ers. Went to Michigan State, from Michigan, big Michigan guy. Obviously, a guy well respected around the league. Definitely a guy that can be a cultural guy too. If you guys watched him during the game, the camera's always on him at least 3 or 4 times a game. He gets super jacked up and energetic on the sideline. Looks like a guy that a defense really rallies around. Another thing I like is that he runs a 4-3 defense. I'm a big fan of the 4-3 defense. The Bears run it really successfully. The Vikings run it really successfully. Focusing on the D-line is something the Lions have not done in like the last 5 years. And they've passed up on a lot of talent at the top of the draft. Guys like Montez Sweat, Brian Burns of the Panthers, guys like that we have passed up on in favor of a guy like T.J. Hawkinson, for instance. Was that a necessary pick? Maybe, maybe not. But the other thing is just from the Bob Quinn era, some of his worst drafts. Tease Tabor. Just an awful, awful draft pick. Do you guys remember that guy? He's already out of the league.
Oh, yeah. Tease, the Florida kid, right?
Yeah. I think he ran a 4.75 40, or maybe it was even slower than that. I forgot off the top of my head, but everybody criticized it. People thought he might have been a first-round talent going in the year. Then he ran that 40, and he fell off the boards fast. And then what happened? He got burned on the sideline consistently. And then he became like a utility guy in the red zone because that's all he could protect because he can't run 20 yards downfield in the red zone. But, man, I mean, the T.J. Hawkinson one is questionable, drafting a tight end that high. Taylor Decker was his first pick. That was a good pick. But, man, and don't anybody tell me that Jim Caldwell should have remained the head coach. He deserved to be fired as well. His record against teams above 500 was like 20%. It was terrible. That team was going nowhere. So I hate that argument from former players. The former Lions players act like they won.
That's the only time, though, in the last 20 years the Lions have even been relatively.
Yeah, but that's not
agree.
acceptable.
You demote
Just
him.
because it's the
Give him a
first time
lesser
in 20
role.
years.
Give him a lesser
I
role.
mean, Lions. Those are your glory years. Unfortunately, Big Z. That's the reality. Of
And
the
the
last
players,
20.
the former players, act like it was like we won a Super Bowl. No, they were 9-7 and missed the playoffs. That's why he got fired. There's higher expectations that we need to have, and I agreed. And I think most Lions fans agreed with the firing at the time. And the only people that don't agree are people like Dan Orlovsky and stuff because they love Jim Caldwell. He's a players coach. Fine, those are those guys. But from a fan perspective, and just from analyzing where they were going, I don't think they weren't going anywhere fast, in my opinion, with Jim Caldwell there. It was time to let him go. He had 4 years. He had a roster that was more talented when he got there than when he left. Maybe part of that is Bob Quinn because he took over halfway through that, and now he's fired. So maybe that's part of the problem. But, I mean, Jim Caldwell, and don't forget, one of those years, the Lions had 8 fourth-quarter comebacks. It was a statistical anomaly amongst the history of NFL, the way they came back 8 times in 1 year. One of them was, remember Remy, one time the Lions had the ball at 17 seconds after a touchback and got in field goal range, and Prater hit a 58-yard field goal. That was insane. That shouldn't happen normally. So there's things like that I do not want to hear that argument ever again that Caldwell should remain the Lions head coach. He wasn't
Caldwell
not
the head
good enough
coach
to
when
win
that
a
happened?
championship. Yes, but I mean,
So
I'm saying that was normally.
So what's your record right now under Patricia, who just got fired?
I mean, Patricia is statistically the third. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but he's
No,
the third worst head
this
coach
season,
in our
this
history.
season. You got 4 wins this season?
Yeah, we're 4-7 somehow. I don't know how, but we have 4 wins somehow.
But with your Caldwell years, you were saying you were just on the verge of making the playoffs. You're at 9-7. I mean, dude, 2 more.
We made the playoffs
victories.
twice under Caldwell.
What's that?
We went to the playoffs twice under Caldwell, twice in 4 years. Which I mean, yay!
So I don't understand the argument of that. Why not Caldwell stay? Maybe I get it wasn't working out and you wanted to take the next leap, but it doesn't seem.
Let me ask Kinger. Why didn't Mike McCarthy stay around? You guys made the playoffs every year.
It just got stale. It's his offense, everything about his system.
No, but he made the playoffs. Why would you fire him? He made the playoffs every once in a while. No, that's the argument I'm trying to make. Caldwell, the Lions made the playoffs a couple times, and they're not competitive. They weren't ready to win a championship under him. So I hate this argument.
I'm not. All right. Well, I'm not really defending Caldwell. I'm not really defending the argument in a sense. All I'm just saying is he's been the best head coach for the Lions and put them in the best position to win far and away ahead of anybody in recent times.
Yes, but best head coach in Lions history. First of all, it's Wayne Fontes because he's the only one that's won a playoff game.
I didn't say that either. I don't think that's what I say. Yeah.
I know, but I'm just saying the best head coach or one of the best head coaches in Lions history is a low bar right now, unfortunately.
Guys,
so just because he was one of the best doesn't mean he didn't deserve to be fired. It's such a low bar.
I just want to, let's just take a step back. We are talking about the same organization that forced 2 Hall of Fame players to retire just out of pure hatred for their own team. This is what we're talking about. Barry Sanders retiring.
He loves the Lions. Barry Sanders loves the Lions.
Yeah, but he hated. I think he probably him and Calvin. Yeah, Calvin Johnson. They had Hall of Famers that they forced into early retirement. Those guys could have made millions more dollars. Maybe not millions for Barry because who knows exactly the going rate at that point. But for Calvin, he could have probably made another easy 20, 25, 30 million at minimum if he would have just cashed out and been like, oh, fuck it, I'll just play shitty and not care that we suck. But Detroit, we're talking about an organization that forced their greatest players ever to say, you know what, fuck you, I'm done. I'm done in this place.
I can't disagree. That's what happened. But I'm hoping the next guy that comes around, that's all I have is hope. This is another rebuild. And it's a Lions tradition, after 4 or 5 years to, get new regime in, start up the hope again. Rise from the ashes once again and then fall back down.
Big C, I'll say I think you got a great target on Salah. I don't know how to really say his name.
Yeah, Robert Salah.
If and when Nagy is fired, I hope he's at the top of the list because he's just kind of like the DNA of what a Bears team is just like we don't need any of these gimmick guys. So I hope that you guys don't get them and we do. But that's further down the road.
Yeah. I mean, and again, the reason I picked Robert Salah, and this also depends, Lions are getting a new GM, so that's also a big factor. Do they get? There's some of the top GM candidates right now. What are you showing me, Barney? What does that say?
I just DM'd Kenny Galladay and said, "Yo, don't re-sign with Detroit. Come play for the Bears.
Come back home to Chicago."
So I just want to say, this is breaking news. Kenny Galladay will be a Bear.
Yeah, I want to call tampering on this. Galladay, we could
just
use
really
in
quick.
Minnesota.
Yeah, really quick before we wrap up, we'll probably get more into this in the off season or when the season wraps up, and there's more news down the wire. But just some early names thrown out there. I think Ed Dodds from the Indianapolis Colts, assistant GM over there. Obviously, they've done a great job drafting. He's a hot name. The director of player personnel from the Ravens, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I apologize. Thomas Dimitroff. That's a name. These are GM names, head coaching names. Well, they can go anywhere, really. Brian Dable from the Bills. That's a name. Offensive coordinator. Don Martindale from the Ravens. That's a possibility. So if that Ravens guy comes over here, maybe they hire Don Martindale, the defensive coordinator, come over to Chicago, to Detroit. Jesus. Obviously, Eric Bieniemy on the top of a lot of lists here in the NFL. I actually wouldn't want him. I'm very skeptical of what he can do as a head coach when he's not under Andy Reid. He has a hazy history, especially when he's offensive coordinator at Colorado. So it's hard to say what is good and what's bad there. An interesting hire, I think, from college would be Matt Campbell from Iowa State. That's a really hot name. I think he had one interview in the past. But that's like if you want a culture guy, kind of like in the Matt Rule type way from college, coming over to the NFL, building like a type of culture. He and watching that Texas game this weekend, he was a really good game manager, and I've watched many games from him. He manages his game really well, at least from a head coaching job, and he seems to have a lot of respect. There's a lot of names out there. Dennis Allen, defensive coordinator from the Saints. That's another one I like. I think he's done a really good job over there, and the players seem to love him. But that's, when you're out underneath the Sean Payton umbrella, how successful are you? He was once a head coach, so that might be appealing, that he's been through it once before. But that was with the Raiders, and at the end of Al Davis's life, close to it. So that was an interesting experience. But anyways, we'll get into a lot of that later. But I think we can wrap up this one. Like I said, lot to talk about. The Bears and Lions head in one direction. The Vikings in the middle there, kind of up and down. And then the Packers, Kinger, sitting on top of the division. But a lot to talk about here going forward. We have 5 more weeks left in the NFL. We have another Tuesday night football game this week. Another Tuesday night football game. So just a lot still to happen, lot to discuss going forward. So please follow us on Instagram at The Pylon. Please follow us on there. And then please subscribe on Twitter, or on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Please leave a review. Really appreciate it. But again, this is Pylon NFC North Podcast. We appreciate everybody for listening. I'm Big Z. And then we got Kinger, Barney, and Remy. And then, of course, our producer, Kid J. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And we'll see you later this week to preview Week 13.